instead of the 2 steps. This foam also tapes into shapes well. If you wanted curved up guards, it's pretty easy just to push it up and tape it there, and it'll pretty much stay, which is also really nice. So you can already see this sword taking shape. It's pretty much almost done. So that's the guard. I'm going to cover the guard again when I do the blade. I'll be putting tape all the way down, covering that whole thing, so I'm not really going to worry too much that it's not completely covered yet. I'm going to go down to the pommel. So I've cut out these pieces. These pieces are about 2 inches by 1.5 inches. I want to shore up the knockout. Knockout's a little bit big for the short sword, and it's not even, so I'm just going to take a little bit off the edge there just so that it looks like it's about the same, even. I'm going to find one of these that fits well. Oh, this looks pretty good, and I'm going to set it right there, even with the back. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So now I put one on each side. It's thickened up the back quite a bit. Now this is the sort of really cool magical part, I think, because what you discover if you've done that is that it's 3 widths of foam is the perfect width, because when you then stick this duct tape on the end, you will find that one of these nice 1.5 inch pieces fits nicely right on the end. Perfect, 1.5 inches. So there you go, and that makes a beautiful knockout right there. Really is nice and solid. No open cell foam at all. Just this blue foam works really, really well. Now, one thing you want to check for though is does your knockout wiggle? Mine does. It's wiggling. You really don't want it to wiggle back and have somebody get that bar in them like that. So what I do is, if your knockout is wiggling, take a bit of Gorilla Tape and just come down here to the pommel. Make sure you get a little bit of the thick part there and just wrap it around. Not too tight. The nice thing about this Gorilla Tape is that because it's so thick, it just absorbs a lot of the motion, and it keeps it from wiggling too much. So now it's much stiffer. Yeah.
One thing is also you could do some other shapes if you felt like it, but start with a simpler one.
Yeah,
as you get better.
You could do round, but once again, efficiency. This piece fits perfectly on 3 steps. So that's why if you just do the 3 parts and the bottom, it'll fit perfectly.
Certainly when you're making
really
lots of swords, it's better to do it this way.
Yes, but if you wanted to make a
custom
design, a fancy one, you could totally make it really fancy if you wanted to. So now it's not wiggling. There we go. So the last steps. Last steps are to cover the blade. Some people like to scoop out some of these curves. So for example, you could maybe scoop out, some people like to scoop out these parts like that and create sort of a fancy look. Just for the record, historically speaking, almost no swords actually had that scoop. It's a much later, more of a Hollywoody kind of design thing, but it does look cool. A lot of people like the look. And a lot of my swords have that because they do look really nice. I'm going to do that in this sword just because I want people to see what I do, but you don't have to do it. So if I'm going to do that, you just simply scoop it out where you drew, like that, and like that. And you're done. There's my little scoops. Take my tape. This first piece is going to be rather long. It goes about 3 to 4 inches past the tip, and 1 inch or 2 past the crossguard too. So I'm going to put it so that the edge is just touching that blue center piece all the way down. And you want don't pull it tight over the crossguard. Let it fold around the crossguard. I'm going to give it space, or else it'll just pop up later. So you're going to press it down along the edge there. I'm pressing it into the blade now and trying to get it to touch that edge of the blade. As I come up over the top, I'm going to fold this over. Not too tight again because I don't want to crush the foam. Let that roll around the corner so that the edge is now covered. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to need to cut it a little bit, so I'm not going to do anything about that yet. This part I'm going to wait on because I don't want to be able to get it to fit perfectly. But I'm going to go back up at the tip, and I'm going to let this side come down and press up against it. That's why I went a little extra, is because I wanted to go over the top and down the sides. That way, as I go around the outsides, I don't have to go over the top a lot. Now, you might say, why does it matter? Why don't you just go over the top over and over again? Well, the reason why is the more layers of tape you put on the tip, the harder it gets. So if you put like 5 layers of tape up here, it's going to be pretty tough when you hit somebody. But if you can get away with just 1 or 2 layers, it'll be nice and soft at the tip, which is what you want. Now, because I did this curved guard, I have to do a little more work down here. What I do is I split this piece of duct tape right up the middle and also right near the guard. like that. And then I just press it down and it folds all down like that. I'm going to do the same thing right here. I'm just going to cut a little slash down and let that fold down like that. There we go. So now I'm going to do the same thing on this side, the side towards me, except not as long of a piece. I'm going to go just to the edge now because I really don't want to go over the tip any more than I have to. So I'm going to just overlap it about 1/4 of an inch, if that. And I'm going to come right down that blue center line again, come over the cross guard, make sure it's really well seated in, tape that down. I did there, pressing it in really good all the way along, and then folding this down here. Go, and now I'm going to cut that again like I did. I'm going to cut straight up that right by the guard and right below the guard, and then that allows me to fold these pieces down so that they don't cover up all the work I've done to get that nice curve. So now on the other side, you can see the duct tape already coming around to the other side, some of it. So I'm going to do the same process again, not too far up, just enough to get over the foam that's showing. Take that off, cover that over again, just right down the blade, over the cross guard. You want to take your time with this. You notice that the tape is going vertical. I'm not wrapping. I would ruin the sword if I wrapped it this way. It would just crush all the foam. When you tape vertically like I'm doing here, you keep the foam soft, and that's really important. As you're working now, I'm going to make sure I get this taped around the curve there. Press it down. Once again, I'm going to cut. Now, what I like to do here is if I cut in the middle, I'm going to get the same kind of opening, and I might still have that blue tape showing. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut 2 cuts, like a wedge, like that. What that allows is that this one will cover the hole that I had before, and the other 2 will fold away. So it's a neat little trick to cover up the hole you made, the slash you made before. I'll show it to you again as I do the other side. Fold that down there and there. It's pretty good. Okay. And then one more piece for the blade, and then we'll do the pommel. So there we go. So once again, I'm going to tape this down here. We'll press it down like that. Go right down the blade, all the way down and over. Pressing this down, making sure I get it really well seated along the blade, touching the blade. Not just this cover that covers the center, but also the main blade itself. And I'm going to wrap that around there. That's pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to show you that trick again, which is if you see right now, I have this sort of blue cut right here where the foam is showing, and I want to get rid of that. So what I'm going to do is instead of cutting a straight line right where the curve is, I'm going to cut 2 of them that are coming together, there and there, like a wedge. And that way, when I pull this center one down, it covers that little cut that I had before, and the other 2 can fold away, one up and one down. So then you end up with a completely smooth covering. Cut this here, and there we go. So, last steps are to cover this knockout and to give yourself some kind of grip. So I'm going to cover the knockout first. It's a pretty simple procedure. Take a piece like this and go right over the top flatwise. And make sure you get all the way down to the actual grip of the sword. Press that down.
Thanks for watching part 3 of how to make LARP swords. There's a link up there as to, well, you know it by now. Either that or, you can just read the description on each of the links. While we're waiting, why don't I put up a picture of my face?